The little girl stood at the checkout counter with a single loaf of bread pressed against her chest. Her red dress hung loosely on her small frame, and her messy hair fell over her eyes. She kept her gaze on the screen in front of her, watching numbers she did not fully understand, but feared anyway. Her hands trembled as she reached into her pocket. She pulled out a few coins and placed them on the counter. The cashier, an older woman with tired eyes, watched her carefully. The line behind the girl grew tense. A woman checked her phone. A man in a suit shifted impatiently. 3 large bikers stood directly behind her. Their leather vests carried bold patches. Their boots echoed against the floor. People around them kept their distance, unsure and nervous. The cashier spoke gently. "That will be $3.72, sweetheart." The little girl swallowed hard. Her voice came out in a thin whisper. "My mom can't afford bread." The words froze the entire store. The businessman looked away. The woman with the cart lowered her phone. Even the 3 bikers stopped moving. The girl's name was Emma Hartley. She was 7 years old. She lived with her mother in a worn-out motel room they could barely afford. Her mother worked long hours. Emma knew they were running out of money. She knew it every time she saw her mother quietly skip dinner and insist Emma eat instead. Emma counted her coins again. Her eyes filled with worry. "I only have this," she said softly. The cashier hesitated. She wanted to help, but store rules kept her still. One of the bikers stepped forward. He was huge, with a broad chest and heavy tattoos. His presence seemed to fill the aisle, but when he spoke, his voice was unexpectedly calm. "How much is she short?" he asked. The cashier looked up at him. "She has enough for the bread, but that is not the point, is it?" The biker nodded slowly. "What does she need for real food?" he asked. "Food a child should be eating." Emma stared at him, confused and scared, unsure if she should speak. Another biker stepped forward, then the third. The 3 formed a quiet circle of protection around her. The cashier took a breath. "For a decent supply, maybe 150. The first biker reached into his pocket and placed 2 large bills on the counter. "Ring up everything she needs. Good food, real meals." Emma's eyes widened. Her throat tightened. The biker leaned down slightly. "You got a mama waiting for you?" he asked. Emma nodded once. "Then we make sure she does not worry today," he said. "Go pick out what you need." The cashier handed Emma a basket. She clutched it tightly and walked back into the aisles, tears already forming. The 3 bikers waited in silence. They did not care about the growing line. They did not care about the stares. They cared only about the little girl who had whispered the truth they had once known themselves. When Emma returned with a basket full of food she had not seen in months, the cashier rang everything up. The bikers paid without question. The first biker bent down again. "Tell your mother she is doing her best," he said. "And tell her she is not alone." Emma nodded fiercely. She held the bags close to her chest. For the first time in a long time, she felt hope. She walked out of the store with more than groceries. She walked out with the feeling that maybe, just maybe, someone cared. Emma walked down the sidewalk with the grocery bags held tightly against her chest. The weight of the bags almost pulled her arms down, but she refused to stop. Every step felt slow and unsteady, yet her heart carried a feeling she had not known in a long time. Hope. Behind her, the 3 bikers watched from the store's entrance. They stood in silence as she disappeared around the corner. Bear crossed his arms, his face thoughtful. Ghost exhaled softly. Hammer simply nodded, understanding the weight of what they had just witnessed. Ghost broke the silence. She reminds me of kids we knew. Bear answered quietly. She reminds me of us. Hammer looked at the sky. No child should carry that kind of worry. They stood there for another moment before turning toward their motorcycles. None of them said it out loud, but all three felt the same pull. The story of this little girl was not finished. Meanwhile, Emma continued toward the motel. She stopped several times to rest her arms. The bags were heavy, but she was determined to bring them home. She did not want her mother to think she had failed. She did not want to see that look of quiet disappointment again. When she reached the door of room 14, she paused. She took a long breath. She pushed the door open. Her mother, Sarah, sat on the edge of the bed. She had dark circles under her eyes and a worry that never seemed to fade. When she saw Emma walk in with the bags, she stood up quickly. "Emma, where were you? I was so worried." Emma set the bags down on the bed. She looked at her mother's stunned expression. For a moment, she did not know where to begin. Sarah stepped closer. "Where did this come from? How did you pay for all this?" Emma sat beside her and held her hand. "I went to buy the bread. I did not have enough. I told the cashier that you could not afford it." Sarah froze. Shame and sadness mixed inside her. She had worked so hard to hide their struggles. Hearing her daughter say those words felt like a weight pressing deeper into her chest. Emma continued softly. "There were 3 men behind me. They helped me. They said you work very hard. They said you are not alone." Sarah blinked fast, trying to stop the tears. She looked at the bags again. She saw food she had not been able to buy in months. Fruits, milk, meat, real meals. "Why would they do that?" she whispered. Emma shrugged gently. "Maybe because they were like us once." The room fell quiet. Sarah sat on the bed, overwhelmed. Emma rested her head on her mother's shoulder. The silence between them was not empty. It was full of warmth, full of relief, full of something they had both lost slowly over time. Hope. Sarah wrapped her arm around her daughter and held her close. For the first time in months, she felt a small part of her strength return. The world had not forgotten them. Someone had seen their struggle and chosen kindness. Neither of them knew it yet, but the events of this day were only the beginning. What happened next would change far more than a single evening. It would change their path and the path of many others. Night began to fall over the small town, painting the streets in soft shadows. The 3 bikers rode toward their clubhouse, their engines low and steady. None of them spoke. They were each thinking about the little girl with the trembling hands and the oversized jacket. Inside the clubhouse, other members of their chapter were gathered around tables. They looked up as Bear, Ghost, and Hammer walked in. The room quieted. The mood on the bikers' faces told everyone something serious had happened. One of the older members, Brick, stepped forward. "What's going on?" Bear sat down heavily. "We met a little girl today, 7 years old, buying bread with spare change." Ghost added, "She said her mom can't afford food." A slow silence filled the room. The men shifted uncomfortably. They all knew what it felt like to grow up hungry or to watch someone they loved struggle to make ends meet. Hammer leaned forward. "We helped her, but it is not just her. That whole neighborhood is hurting." Brick scratched his beard. "What do you want us to do?" Bear looked around the room, his voice steady. "We take care of them." No one laughed or questioned him. These men were rough in appearance, but none of them were strangers to hardship. They had all carried pain, loss, and regret. Helping others was not new to them. They simply did it quietly. Ghost spoke next. We ride tomorrow. We buy what we can. We give it out. No cameras, no noise, just help. The men nodded. Decisions in this group were not made with speeches. They were made with actions. A few hands hit the table. A few heads bowed in agreement. It was decided. Meanwhile, back in room 14, Sarah prepared dinner for the first time in weeks. Emma sat on the bed swinging her legs, watching her mother slice fruit with careful hands. "Mama," Emma said, "do you think we will be okay?" Sarah looked at her daughter. She felt fear and gratitude mix inside her. She did not want to make promises she could not keep. But she also saw the light returning to Emma's eyes. "We will be better," she said simply, "and we will keep going." Emma smiled. She took a small bite of fruit. They ate quietly, savoring the rare moment of comfort. They did not know the bikers were planning something far greater than a single act of kindness. Across town, Bear stood outside the clubhouse door looking at the night sky. He spoke quietly, almost to himself. "No child should worry about food," he said. "Not on my watch." Ghost joined him. "You think they will understand why we do this?" Bear shook his head. "They do not need to understand. They just need to feel that they matter." The two men stood there as the wind shifted and the engines cooled behind them. They were preparing for something bigger than they had attempted before. And somewhere in a small motel room, a little girl fell asleep holding a piece of hope she had not felt in months. She did not know that tomorrow would bring more change than she could imagine. Morning sunlight touched the cracked walls of the motel. Emma woke before her mother, her small hands still wrapped around the blanket. For a moment, she forgot the events of yesterday. Then she remembered the food, the kindness, and the way the bikers had looked at her with calm, steady eyes instead of judgment. Sarah rose slowly. She looked tired, but there was something softer in her face. She glanced at the groceries lined up on the small counter. It still felt unreal. She whispered, "We will make this day count, Emma." Emma nodded as she put on her shoes. She felt lighter than she had in months. Across town, the clubhouse doors opened. More bikers had arrived, answering calls from Bear, Ghost, and Hammer. They stood in a wide circle as Bear explained the plan. "There are families around here who need help," he said. "We saw one yesterday. There are more." Hammer added, "We buy what we can, we load it up, then we deliver it. No questions, no judgment." The men nodded. Their leather vests creaked as they shifted, preparing themselves. These were men who had seen hard years, men who knew loss, men who understood the weight of hunger. They gathered money quickly. Bills came from pockets and old envelopes. No one asked where the money came from. They trusted each other. That was enough. Ghost looked at the growing pile and spoke quietly. "This will make a difference." The bikers rode out in a long line, the sound of engines rolling through the streets like distant thunder. They parked outside the grocery store. Curious customers watched from inside as the men moved with quiet purpose. The manager froze when he saw the group walking toward him. Bear stepped forward. "We want to buy supplies," he said. "A lot of them." The manager cleared his throat. "What kind of supplies?" Ghost smiled faintly. "The kind families need." The store became a scene no one had witnessed before. Bikers filled carts with canned food, fresh produce, milk, rice, and essentials. They bought baby, formula, diapers, and toiletries. They made sure nothing was missing. Customers stopped to stare. Some stepped aside respectfully. Others whispered, but no one interfered. The energy around the bikers was strong but peaceful. Meanwhile, Emma walked with her mother to a nearby park. Sarah had not taken time for herself in months. She watched her daughter play, climbing the old slide and running across the worn grass. The simple joy in Emma's laughter brought a warmth to Sarah's chest. A woman nearby smiled at them. "She seems happy." Sarah nodded. It has been a long time since she felt safe. The woman tilted her head. "Good things come when you least expect them." Sarah wanted to believe that. Back at the store, the bikers pushed their full carts to the checkout. The total filled the screen. The manager swallowed hard. Bear handed over thick stacks of money without blinking. "Bag it up," Bear said. "We have deliveries to make." Employees worked quickly. The bikers helped carry the boxes outside. They tied everything down on their motorcycles and in a few old trucks they had brought along. Hammer looked at the sky. "We should start with the motel." Bear agreed with a single nod. "She needs to know we did not forget her." The engines roared to life again. They rode in formation, a line of steel and leather crossing the town with a purpose far deeper than anyone watching could guess. In room 14, Sarah and Emma returned from the park. They climbed the stairs slowly, unaware that a convoy was already approaching. They did not know that life was about to shift again. The rumble of engines grew louder as the bikers turned into the narrow street leading to the motel. Families peeked through curtains. A few children stepped outside, unsure if they should be excited or afraid. The convoy rolled to a stop in a straight line, engines quieting one by one. Bear removed his helmet and looked toward room 14. "This is where we start," he said. The group began unloading boxes from their motorcycles and trucks. They worked quickly and quietly. No one raised their voice. No one tried to draw attention. They were here for a purpose. Inside room 14, Sarah was folding Emma's clothes when she heard the noise outside. She walked to the door, hesitated, then opened it slowly. The sight before her made her freeze. Dozens of bikers stood on the walkway, their arms full of bags and boxes. At the front stood Bear, Ghost, and Hammer. Their expressions were calm and warm, not intimidating as she had feared the day before. Emma stepped beside her mother, her small hand gripping Sarah's fingers. Bear spoke first. "Ma'am, yesterday we helped your daughter. Today, we help your neighbors too." Sarah stared at the supplies they carried. "You already did more than enough." Bear shook his head. "One good act is never enough. Not when people are hurting." Ghost lifted a box. "This is for you. No repayment, no conditions." Hammer added, "And we will leave more for anyone who needs it." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak, but her voice trembled. Emma stepped forward. "You came back," she whispered. Bear knelt to her level. "We said we would take care of things. We keep our word." One by one, the bikers handed Sarah boxes filled with essentials. Milk, bread, vegetables, rice, cleaning supplies, even small treats for Emma. Tears rolled down Sarah's cheeks as she took each item. A door down the hall opened. A tired man stepped out cautiously. "What's happening?" Bear raised his voice just enough for everyone to hear. "If anyone needs help, come forward. We brought enough for every family here." One by one, doors opened. Mothers held their children close. Elderly residents stepped out slowly, leaning on canes. A few men with work-worn hands approached quietly. The bikers greeted each of them with respect, handing out boxes without judgment. Ghost walked to an older woman struggling with her bags. "Let me carry that for you." Hammer gave a young mother diapers and formula. "You're doing great. Keep going." Bear handed a veteran a box of supplies. "No one gets left behind." The motel courtyard filled with quiet conversation, soft relief, and the sound of gratitude that words could barely express. Children gathered around the motorcycles, pointing at the shiny chrome and asking innocent questions. The bikers answered kindly, letting them sit on the seats and honk the horns. Sarah stepped beside Bear. "I do not know how to thank you." Bear looked at her gently. "You do not have to. Just take care of your daughter, and when life gets better, help someone else." Emma hugged him without warning. He froze, surprised, then placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're a brave kid," he said, softly. "Braver than you know." Across the courtyard, the residents continued gathering supplies. For the first time in months, the motel felt alive. It was no longer a place of fear and struggle. It was a place where people were seen. Sarah wiped her eyes. "You changed today for many families." Bear shook his head. "No, Emma changed it. We only followed where her voice led us." The sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the group. The boxes were nearly gone. The courtyard was full. Hope had filled every corner. But the bikers were not finished yet. Their plans were larger than anyone knew. The sun had nearly set when the bikers finished delivering supplies to every room in the motel. The courtyard was full of neighbors talking softly, carrying boxes, and thanking the men who had arrived like a storm and brought calm with them. Children chased each other between the motorcycles, their laughter echoing against the old walls. Bear watched the scene with steady eyes. He had seen many things in his life, but moments like this were rare, moments when the world felt lighter for a few hours. Ghost stepped up beside him. "We did well today." Bear nodded. "We did what needed to be done." Hammer joined them. "She will remember this for the rest of her life." Bear looked toward room 14. Emma stood in the doorway with her mother. She waved shyly. He raised a hand in return. Sarah approached them slowly. Her voice trembled with emotion. "You have helped every family here. I don't know why you chose us, but you changed everything." Bear spoke gently. "We were chosen by what we saw. Sometimes you hear a voice that should not be ignored." Ghost added, "Your daughter's brave. She spoke the truth even when it was hard." Sarah looked down at Emma, who held her hand tightly. For the first time in months, Sarah felt hope settle in her chest like a warm weight. Bear reached into his pocket and handed Sarah a small slip of paper. "This is the number for a local hiring manager. He owes us a favor. Tell him we sent you." Sarah stared at the number. I don't know what to say." Hammer answered quietly. "Just take the chance when it comes. You deserve better days." The bikers stepped back, preparing to leave. Their engines were already cooling in the fading light. Emma ran forward. "Will you come back?" Bear crouched to her height. "We might, but you won't need us forever. You're stronger than you think." Emma held his hand for a moment, then let go. She stepped back beside her mother. The bikers walked to their motorcycles. One by one, the engines roared to life. Residents stepped aside, watching with gratitude in their eyes. Some waved, others placed hands over their hearts. A few simply stood in silence, touched beyond words. As the convoy pulled away, Bear looked once more at the motel. A place of struggle had become a place of unity, at least for tonight. Ghost's voice came through the rumble. "Think she'll be all right?" Bear answered without hesitation. "She will. That kid has fire in her." Hammer smiled. "And she's got a community now." The bikes disappeared down the road, leaving behind echoes of engines and footprints of kindness no one would forget. In room 14, Sarah placed the last of the groceries on the shelf. Emma curled up on the bed, exhausted but smiling. The world felt different. Not perfect, but kinder. Sarah sat beside her daughter. "Are you happy?" Emma nodded. "They helped everyone, Mama. Not just us." Sarah brushed her hair gently. "Yes. And one day when we are able, we will do the same." That night, Emma fell asleep without fear. Her dreams were not about hunger or darkness. They were about the sound of engines and the kindness hidden behind leather vests and rough hands. Weeks passed. Sarah made the call Bear had given her. She got the job, a steady income, normal hours. She and Emma moved into a small apartment with sunlight and space to breathe. Life slowly rebuilt itself, brick by brick. Emma grew up remembering the lesson they received. She helped others whenever she could. She carried compassion like a torch, lighting dark places for those who needed it most. And though the bikers never asked for thanks, the story of that day traveled through the town for years. People spoke of the girl who whispered the truth and the men who listened. For Emma, it became the moment that showed her something important. That strength comes in many forms, that hope often arrives from unexpected places, and that sometimes the toughest hands carry the warmest hearts.